Product provided by Nintendo. Pokken Tournament was released on the Wii U last year, and now a new version of the game titled Pokken Tournament DX is making its way over to the Nintendo Switch. This title brings together the world of Pokemon with fighting gameplay similar to Bandai Namco's Naruto series for one interesting collaboration. The DX upgrade on Nintendo Switch adds in some extra content missing from the Wii U version, along with some minor graphical upgrades. While Pokken Tournament DX is primarily a gameplay-driven fighting game, there is a narrative for the single-player mode called Farum League. The single-player story mode pretty much acts as a giant tournament divided into subcategory leagues. During your time in the tournament, you begin to hear rumors of a mysterious black Pokemon and their trainer, until one day during the Green League tournament, the rumored pair appear. The story will progress slowly over the course of the different tournament leagues as you start to learn and unravel the mysteries of this pair of Pokemon and their trainer. The story is told through dialogue between characters. Occasionally you'll get a cutscene here and there in the game, but primarily everything will be told via caption and dialogue recordings of those captions. It's definitely not the best story in a fighting game, but the effort is appreciated, especially with it being a Pokemon game, a franchise so well known for its RPG elements and story. Like I said earlier, Pokken plays very familiar to Namco Bandai's Naruto series of fighting games. I guess you could also put Tekken into that mix, as Pokken has two types of gameplay that the game transitions in between during a match. When you start a battle, you're thrown into a gameplay type called Field Phase. This gives the gameplay a wider field of view that ends up being very similar to Naruto games. Here your Pokemon are able to shoot wide projectiles at each other as they try to get the lead on their opponent. Ultimately, it's a game of smart positioning and attacking. Once a player lands a strong hit on their opponent, the game will have a phase shift, and this transitions into the second type of gameplay called Dual Phase. Dual Phase is more in line with what you'd see in Tekken or any other traditional 2D fighting game. You get a side view of the Pokemon where things get a little bit more like the average fighting game. You have a lot less mobility because of the camera angle, but one good strong hit and the game will transition back into Field Phase. It's really an interesting gameplay mechanic that adds in a level of strategy into the game. Not only do you have to be mindful of your own and your opponent's attacks, but now when you get hit or land a hit, there is a possibility you might experience a gameplay change when phase shift happens. As for combat, the Pokemon can mix and match between normal, grab, and counter attacks. During battles, you'll see your synergy gauge start to build up, and you can think of this as your special meter. Once it's filled up, you can activate synergy for a buff activation that lets you use a special move called Synergy Burst. The combat is simple, it's pretty much pick up and play elements for more casual players. However, the amount of combos you can create with the moves at your disposal will give the more technical players some depth too. Actually, this game's practice mode offers a pretty robust tutorial and combo dojo that will give new players the tools and lessons they need to become more technically inclined fighters. Jumping into battle, you'll be able to choose and play as one of 21 different Pokemon. That's 5 more available than what was offered in the Wii U version of the game. The additional characters from the arcade version of Pokken is a welcome addition that fleshes out the roster of characters at your disposal. All these different types of Pokemon have their advantages and weaknesses, and that's where support Pokemon come into play. Support Pokemon come in pairs and offer a buff of some type along with the charge time. The charge time tells you how long it takes to use that support Pokemon. It's up to the player to find the right combination of main Pokemon and support Pokemon to help balance out the weaknesses of your main fighter. A new pair of support Pokemon is actually available in this DX version as well. Now let's talk about the game modes, as Pokken Tournament DX adds a few new ones to the package. You still have the Farum League I mentioned earlier. It acts as the story mode for the game that has you compete in different subcategories for a tournament. The single-player battle mode lets you compete against an enemy AI opponent in 3 different types of battles. There is the basic battle, which is pretty self-explanatory, just a simple battle, no extra features. The extra battle mode adds in power-ups and traps in the forms of collectible orbs that'll appear randomly on the map, and if you pick one up, it'll either give you a buff or a nerf. Lastly, there's a new sub-mode called Team Battle. This is a 3v3 mode where each player chooses 3 Pokemon to fight with. The trainer with the last remaining Pokemon wins. This is a really cool addition to the game that definitely feels more in line with traditional Pokemon battles. I found myself gravitating towards this game mode the most outside of when I wasn't playing the story mode. As always, all these single battle matches are customizable, so you can change the AI difficulty, round points, battle time, and more. Practice mode is what I mentioned earlier. This is where you can practice your moves and take on tutorials to become a better fighter. Wireless Battle is a new game mode specifically for the Switch, and it's the local wireless multiplayer mode that goes along with local battle mode. Something specifically cool with the Switch version is that you can play multiplayer on a single console with the single Joy-Con, so naturally you always have a second controller ready to go. You also have the option to now play local multiplayer in either split screen or single view mode. The choice is up to you. One new game mode in DX is the Daily Challenge mode. As the name suggests, the game will give you a new challenge daily, and usually it's beating an opponent with a specific group of Pokemon. Completing the challenge will reward you with some customizable items for your profile and avatar, which brings me to the My Town mode. This is where you can customize your profile and character, and it's one of my favorite things to do outside of Pokemon battles. Using the money you earn from battles, you can purchase new items to dress up and customize your avatar trainer. You can also change up the greetings you say in battles and even switch out titles that appear in online matches. If you have any amiibo, you can scan them 5 times a day to unlock brand new items and titles as well. Customizing my avatar was pretty much the driving force that kept me playing battles over and over again outside of just the multiplayer mode with my friends. Lastly, there's the online mode that's gotten a few refinements. Aside from the usual online matches, you can now choose to play in a group of friend matches only rather than just random matchmaking. Likewise, there's a new matchmaking mode for ranked matches that has been added in as well, giving both hardcore and casual players something new to do online. I was only able to test out the servers with some friends of mine reviewing the game in Europe, and it worked pretty well, but online ranked matchmaking is a bit harder to judge at the moment since so few people are playing the game since it's only reviewers. Graphics in Pokken Tournament DX have gotten a slight upgrade from the Wii U version. The Wii U version ran at about 25% under 720p with a frame rate target of 60 frames per second that would at times dip down to the low 50. Pokken Tournament DX bumps up that resolution to a native 720p across the game with a seemingly locked 60 frames per second. As far as I could tell, I didn't see the frame rate drop below 60 outside of the local multiplayer mode. Now let me clarify, on the Wii U version, the local multiplayer matches would run at 30 frames per second because the game would need to render one player on TV and another on the gamepad. On the Switch version, it runs at 60 frames per second when you play in the single person view on the TV, or when playing a battle over local wireless with 2 Nintendo Switches. However, if you want to render out a split screen view on a single Switch or TV, then the gameplay gets dropped down to 30 frames per second. So it's pretty in line with the Wii U version where if it has to render 2 types of gameplay screens, it has to go down to 30 frames per second. On top of the resolution and frame rate improvement, there is some better texture filtering going on during gameplay that displays slightly cleaner looking textures on stage elements, though the DX version is still using the same models as the Wii U version. Pokken Tournament DX on Switch is definitely a better looking game than the Wii U version that came out last year, but not by a large margin as compared to something like the jump from Mario Kart 8 on Wii to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. Pokken Tournament was a great sounding game last year, and that pretty much continues in this director's cut. You still get the fast pumping battle music that the original game had, along with the pretty extensive dialogue library for the characters in the story mode, despite the game hardly having any cutscenes. During battles, Pokemon's attacks and moves will have a strong bass to them that really sound and feel powerful. If this game's audio has taught me anything, it's that everyone needs someone as supportive as Nina yelling at them all the time. Pokken Tournament is a great fighting game. I pretty much established this in my original review of the Wii U version, and DX does improve upon it a bit, but not by much. This is more of a content expansion with a 3v3 mode, 5 new Pokemon, a new support character, and a few improvements to the online mode. Is that worth spending another $60 if you bought the Wii U version? Probably not unless you were a die-hard Pokken fan to begin with. I think with these Wii U to Switch ports, people, including myself, tend to expect a more technical upgrade that's simply not just here, or just very extremely minor. The reason to buy Pokken Tournament DX is more for the content expansion, the on-the-go gameplay, and the seamless local multiplayer. For gamers who didn't get a chance to play the original game, it's a worthy purchase. It's a solid fighting game for both casual fighting gamers as well as more technically inclined ones, especially with the newly added ranked mode for online multiplayer. However, if you bought it on Wii U and were only mildly interested in it and stopped playing it since then, I doubt DX will change your mind. That does it for my review of Pokken Tournament DX for the Nintendo Switch. If you have any questions I may have missed in my review, feel free to ask me in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to try to get back to you. If you enjoyed this type of content and reviews, then please consider dropping a like on the video. It really helps the channel out, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching, and keep on gaming.